Hello, I'm going to discuss a, a portion of Chapter 9. At the very end of Chapter 9, there is what you see here, the hypothesis testing summary. This is on page 545 of the 10th edition. And the reason I wanted to spend some time on this is because I find that it is very confusing for students. I certainly was very confused the first year or two that I taught this class. And the source of the confusion is in chapter 8 and chapter 9, we have concepts and terminology and tests and so forth. We have a variety of things that sound very similar. And it's difficult to understand when do we use the techniques in chapter 8 and when do we use the techniques in chapter 9. So that's what I want to talk about here. I don't want to talk about a specific problem right now. I want to just discuss it in general. I have mentioned many times that, in my opinion, the best thing you can do is to come up with some examples that make sense to you and really understand those examples. Now, that can be taken from some of the exercises or from the quizzes or what have you, but it's so important to have an example or two for every single concept that you thoroughly understand. And if you get stuck on a exam problem, you can make the comparison to your example that makes sense to you. Obviously, I don't know what example makes sense to you because, well, you're all different people. So let me just arbitrarily choose a couple of examples that I'm going to use, and you can adapt them. You can use them if you like, or you can change them. It's up to you. So here's my example. For chapter 8, I'm going to use the example of I am a nutritionist and I am testing the hypothesis that if you eat Raisin Bran cereal, you will have some benefits. If you eat Raisin Bran cereal, you will be able to do more push-ups. Okay, that's example number one. Example number two is I'm a nutritionist and I'm trying to compare and contrast the effects of Raisin Bran cereal and some other cereal, say cornflakes. Okay, so now we're talking about two different types of cereal. We're talking Raisin Bran and we're talking about cornflakes. Okay, so in this scenario that I am looking at just Raisin Bran, I just want to know if Raisin Bran helps with push-ups. That is a chapter 8 type problem because chapter 8 is right here. It's a comparison of a sample mean with a specific population mean. In other words, what I am doing is I'm saying, hey, I'm looking at the sample mean of 100 kids that I gave Raisin Bran to, and I'm asking the question, can these 100 kids on average do better than the entire population? So out of all the fifth graders in the universe, these 100 kids that I fed Raisin Bran, am I getting a statistically significant difference between those kids and the entire universe of kids in the population? So I'm comparing a sample to a population. One sample, a sample mean with a specific population mean. Okay, so is that clear? I hope that's clear. Okay, so when we're comparing the sample mean with a specific population mean, this is chapter 8. Here's an example. I'll let you read that yourself from your book. You use the z-test, the t-test, and so forth. Okay, so now all of these formulas, you certainly, it's foolishness to try to memorize them. Sometimes you will just by using them a lot. Give me 1 second here. The important formulas are at the end of each chapter. So this formula page here is at the end of chapter 9, it's on page 540. There's a similar one at the end of chapter 8 that has all the important formulas. So it's foolishness to try to memorize them. It's just not it's not a good use of your time. So uh, so I commend that to your attention. What I strongly urge you to do is to make a photocopy of all of the important formulas so you have them at your fingertips. You certainly don't want to be fumbling around through your book trying to find the formulas in a moment of stress. Okay, so let's go back to the summary page. Okay, so here we are back at the summary page. It's page 545 of the 10th edition. It'll be a different page in the 9th edition if that's the one you're using, but you'll be able to find it. It's at the end of chapter 9. Okay, so this is concept number 1, or item number 1 here. We're comparing a sample mean with a specific population mean. So what's my sample mean? It's all the kids that eat the Raisin Bran, and I'm comparing them to all of the kids in the universe. I'm comparing a mean to a sample mean to a population mean. So here's some formulas. On this formula, it's the same thing. Instead of comparing the means, now what I'm comparing is the variance. So here I'm comparing the X bars compared to the population mean. Here I'm number 2 here, I'm comparing the sample variance with the specific population variance. And as you know, variance and standard deviation are Tweedledee and Tweedledum. If you know one, you know the other. So here we are, 1 and 2 are using the techniques in chapter 8. Now, let's suppose we're comparing 2 sample means. Let's suppose we're saying, hey, listen, I want to know, if Raisin Bran compared to cornflakes, does it make a difference? Is it better to eat cornflakes or is it better to eat Raisin Bran? Well, now I'm comparing 2 sample means. So this is chapter 9. So now my comparison is comparing X bar sub 1 and X bar sub 2. So X bar sub 1, let's just say that's the cornflakes. X bar sub 2, that's the Raisin Bran, and I'm making that comparison. Okay, so I can't go into all the details of chapter 8 and chapter 9 techniques here. I'm just trying to illustrate to you what the heck is the difference between them. They seem so similar. So that's the difference. If you're talking about a sample compared to a population, you're talking about the techniques in chapter 8. If you're talking about one sample compared to another sample, that's the techniques of chapter 9. And all of this is going to be exactly as I'm sorry. What I'm trying to say here is all of these formulas are all spelled out at the end of each of the 2 chapters, chapter 8 and chapter 9. This is just a summary page, but I certainly strongly urge you, make a copy of, there's actually 2 pages here, page 545 and page 546. Make a copy of those 2 pages and have them at your fingertips whenever you're doing any of the sample problems from the study guides or when you are doing the take-home exam. I think it will be very beneficial to you. Okay, so I hope this little discussion helped you.